Greetings, beloved. Hey, it's Dr. Amanda Noel.
And Jack.
And Lisa, our sweet little 11-month, almost year-old. And she wanted to be in the video today. We're going to see how it goes. And today we have a video about the final stages of the twin flame union. Now, we have done a 7-stage video that you can check out, another separate video where we go in depth on the 7 stages. Today, we're going to just talk about the final 3 stages, which are runner-chaser. Then it's either called wholeness or surrender.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, the
twin flame reunion. All right, so twin flame runner chaser, we had a lot of that. There was many times where my anger was coming up. And I think it's just the anger in my lineage. My dad, my grandfather, all the men had this anger thing. We're passionate. We're all about integrity and justice and honesty. And so for some reason, being in twin flame union, that really triggered the anger out of me. I always thought I was a nice guy, but you know, being in twin flame union, you can't hide from yourself in any way whatsoever. You can't hide from your shadows.
And we were coming out of the honeymoon phase, the earlier phase, and we had not actually gotten into actual full aligned twin flame union, but I think it was the idea of going into twin flame union that freaked you out. And for me, I was just faking it, like in the honeymoon phase, like I don't see his anger, la 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 la, like there were little like signs of it, and then it started to come out, and I was just like, I'm gonna go over here and dissociate, because that's what I did as a child when I had anger in my family.
Yeah, so it was just anger when things didn't make sense to me, when the feminine was like doing her thing, like creating chaos, not making any sense to me. My masculine would get really upset, and really I almost felt hurt, like deep down, because it was like so challenging from a masculine that I would just get upset, but really I was like hurting inside.
You're hurting.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Amanda's learning something right now.
Yeah. So can you tell me more about the hurt side? Because when I hear like anger, it's interesting to know that like deep down there was hurt.
Yeah. So I think it's like I felt hurt when things wouldn't make sense to me, because it almost like physically, like I almost feel pain in my brain. Like it almost gives me a headache. Like it almost actually physically hurts.
Okay. So you were like, I'm feeling pain in myself, and the woman is causing it, so she's hurting me.
Yeah, so she's hurting me.
Yeah.
She needs to stop so that I stop hurting, and I feel confused, and I don't like to feel confused.
It was super confusing because, like, I didn't want to leave the bliss of the honeymoon, and I was like, everything's great. Why can't he just go with it? Why can't he just chill out? Why does he have to be so angry? Exactly, Elise says, like, giving raspberries. So exactly, like I think we all have these inner children that are just like, let's make the most of life, let's play with our toes, let's have fun. And for me, I was certainly in this like inner child phase when we were in the honeymoon, because I never had a man love me this much and be so present and be so like it seemed stable. And then all of a sudden he was like, I'm gonna fly away over here and leave, and like he just completely flipped into another stage, and it was like, oh my God, this is not what I was.
Stay in the frame. Stay in the frame.
It was not what I was forecasting.
So eventually, what happened? Looking back on it, I wasn't aware of this at the time, but we had a lot of built-up resentments towards one another.
Toward each other's lineages.
Yeah, because our shadow sides were coming out from both sides. And then I didn't know my needs, honestly. I didn't know that I had needs. And honestly, my major intention in our relationship was to show up fully present and just embody unconditional love. No big thing, right? But then I realized eventually that, wow, I have my human 3D like shadow coming out, and like, why is that happening? I don't know why I'm acting like this. This is so not me. But if I'm acting like this, then it is me. So what's going on? And then
And then, of course, I'm going to mirror your shadow, and then I'm doing the same thing because we're only able to mirror who we are. And yeah, there's always going to be a mirror. So if he's in shadow, I'm going to be in shadow. It takes two to tango, right?
But then I would say Amanda's shadow wasn't as expressed, but I would say your shadow was, you were afraid of abandonment.
So yeah, I love that you talk about boundaries. Can I say something really quickly about boundaries? Okay, so we teach about boundaries before we help our clients call in their twin flame. We actually help them create a list of their needs and boundaries, and we teach them how to set boundaries. And Jack and I had not taken our own course back then when we were wanting to go into twin flame union, and we were caught in these final phases. In the runner chaser phase especially. And so it really helped me when I started to even have the idea like, oh, maybe I should set some boundaries. Oh, maybe like that was groundbreaking. So you were actually the first person to bring it up. You were like, my boundaries aren't being met. And so then I was like meeting all of Jack's boundaries. And then there was like this little voice in my head that was like, oh, like that's okay. And like, do I even have boundaries? Like what? Like what are they? So that was really an interesting period in my life to finally have somebody, which was actually me, to stand for my boundaries. And it was mirrored through Jack because you were doing it. And I was like, well, I can't just have my partner have boundaries. I need to have them too. We've just got a lot going on. We're in lockdown.
We're just gonna have to go with
Lockdown. Okay, we're going
got a
with
full
it.
family here.
Here's the dog. Here's the baby. All right. No,
So yeah, with the baby and all. But we also realized that we have needs. And so like I learned eventually that some of my greatest needs are like connection and understanding and communication. And I realized that in some ways we weren't communicating well with each other. Many times I didn't understand Amanda. Like I didn't understand why she would all of a sudden go through the whole kitchen and change where everything was, and then I'd come down the next morning and I couldn't find anything to make breakfast, so I'd get a little irritated.
I was reorganizing because our kitchen had not been set up in an efficient manner when we moved in. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about, especially you Capricorns. But yes, it was hard for Jack because we are totally two different people, and I was operating from my operating system going, this is what is going to work for me and make sense. And you know, in a union, it's very different than when we're in our own worlds. And when we're in a trinity, it becomes even more challenging.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, honestly, I think it was really exciting and fun once actually the problems did come up in our runner chaser phase. Because, well, one, we had to go into the next phase, which was either you can call it surrender, we call it wholeness. It's really just like aligning with ourselves, letting go, really stepping into our power, becoming whole sovereign beings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of exciting when you become a problem solver and you also just say, you know what? We don't really have a solution for now. We're going to just let it go and just do our best. Like there's no perfect thing. And that was a lot of what we did is we took space and we kind of just let go of the relationship. We were like, okay, we're going to work on ourselves. We're going to work on our relationship to the level that we can to see if we can salvage it. But it was really like, we're going to do what's showing up right now, which is to heal this mess and to find the sovereignty in it without attachment of making it into a lifelong relationship, a lasting union.
Yeah, so we had parents and friends at the time telling us to leave each other. So eventually that did inspire the twin flame separation. You know, I talked with my family and they're like, oh yeah, you know, breakups are hard, like blah, blah, blah.
And I don't actually remember agreeing to that. Like you said we, but I was pretty much like, I want to make this work if at all possible. Like I already had so much skin in the game. Like I had already announced to you all, like this is my twin flame. And I was in my late 30s wanting to have a child. And I was like spending 5 years, maybe it was like 3 years back then, but it seemed like quite a big amount of time. And I was like, I was sure he was my twin flame. What is going on here? So for me, I never was like completely like closing the door on it, but I surrendered it. I was like, all right, if that's not it, like I will be okay with that. but I never, like, you were actually the one that really said, like, no, for now, we're taking the ring off. And I was crushed. I was truly crushed. And it felt like the worst breakups that I'd ever had, like, all rolled together. But
you had some bad breakups.
I had some really bad breakups, and I had severe depression after some of the breakups. I did not have that with Jack because of the tools that I applied, because I'd already been teaching twin flame tools. And in theory, I knew what a twin flame was and a twin flame union, but I had not actually gotten into the twin flame union. I had met my twin flame, but when we hit the runner chaser, the separation phase, really good. It was like I wasn't expecting that. It dredged up all of my old wounds. And yeah, so I definitely had to apply all of the tools that I had already been teaching at that point. This has been a couple years now. And I applied the things that really do help, and they worked. Thank God, they really worked to get me into a strong place. So it was painful, but I moved from pain into pleasure using some really powerful, life-changing, life-saving tools.
Okay, so I had stories in my head that, we needed to separate. I heal wounds inside of myself, and in the wholeness phase, in the surrender phase, whichever one you want to call it, I gave myself the opportunity to really take full responsibility for what I'm creating in this union, in this relationship. And responsibility, I feel, often gets a bad rap. Like, people are like, oh, like, responsibility, that means, like, what does it mean?
Being a grown-up, being, like, serious,
Yeah, like, go to your room if you're not responsible. I don't know. But this is responsibility from a perspective of, like, personal sovereignty, and that I am creating everything in my reality. So once I took that full responsibility... Like
ownership, like exciting, like highest excitement ownership.
So I asked myself, how is this a reflection of me? Do I play any part in this at all? This dynamic that's showing up. And, I had needs that weren't being met. I was depressed. I was, not in a good place. And looking back on it, it was because I wasn't communicating my needs. And we just were kind of really entangled and codependent. So in the wholeness phase, I was able to really mend my own wounds, take full responsibility, get clear on what all my needs were, get clear on what all my boundaries were, so that I could then communicate that.
So one of the biggest sources of disempowerment that I had was I was afraid that if we broke up, if we were to end the runner-chaser phase, the separation in fail, that I would actually be financially destitute. I was terrified of my root chakra without Jack, because I built a successful business on my own, but then I brought him into it, and I'd gotten super codependent, super clingy. All of my ancestral patterns of where women and men, especially women, leaning on the man for financial freedom. Well, I had fallen into that because it was like the first time in my life where I felt like a man could take care of me. And I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to keep pushing here. For 3 decades, I've been working hard to be on my own, and finally I don't have to do that. And when Jack was like, all right, we might be breaking up, I got so scared and disempowered. And I actually had to reach out to my mastermind group. I was participating in a mastermind with about 7 other women. And I remember just breaking down, being like, I don't know what I'm going to do without my boyfriend, without my fiance if he leaves me. Not only am I going to be dealing with a financial headache in my business, because I've called myself a twin flame matchmaker at the time, and everybody's going to see that I'm a fraud. I don't know how to do my books. I don't know how to do my numbers. So what I did is I went into the deepest fear, the deepest pain, and I made the commitment that I would be financially free without Jack, that I would make the money without Jack, and that even though I would be letting my whole community down as like a twin flame symbol, that I would be an icon for women who fail in a twin flame relationship and they bounce back and they get in their pleasure and they get in their pussy power. And I was like, I worked out a whole plan about how I would adopt a child in like a foreign country where my brother lives. And like, I envisioned like the most beautiful timeline as being a big bad failure. And I was like, it's going to be freaking awesome. So facing the fear is what got me through it, and bringing love into each potential timeline was just so freeing.
And I feel like you stepped into your full sovereignty when you did that, because then you created a pillar, a solid pillar within yourself that you are good no matter what.
I was
even
good.
If I'm not in the picture.
Exactly.
I found that really attractive, because then I was like, okay, so now she's not going to be codependent on me for her happiness or whatever. Like, if that was the case, I think we both were in some codependence.
Super.
So once we both got into our sovereignty, well, once I did, then she mirrored it at the exact same time, and so then we were like, oh, sweet,
Absolutely.
we're both responsible for ourselves now. Cool.
Yeah, and these patterns, ladies, gentlemen, they're deep. If we have root chakra issues, a lot of times these go back generationally, and if they are intertwined with our gender, with being female entrepreneurs were not even in existence until like the 60s or something like that. Women have been owned and enslaved more than men. It's really true. And it doesn't mean that there's right or wrong. We all have female, male, we have to work together. But I was playing out the role of my grandmother who lost all of her financial stability because her husband gambled it away, and she went to talk to him about it, and she got basically beaten by my grandfather. And so there are all these old patterns that are in the epigenetics that say, shut up, don't talk about money. We can't talk to our partner. We can't be strong. We can't have arguments. We can't dialogue about these things. So I had really basically had invisible duct tape over my mouth when it came to asking questions with Jack around money. I got into this little girl codependent space. So of course he was not attracted to that. And it wasn't until I came into that sovereign space where I was like, fuck it. I'm going to be powerful no matter who I'm with. If it's Jack, if I'm alone, if it's with someone else, I'm going to be in my power. And that was the undying commitment. And so that's why I love teaching women how to step into their power, especially their pussy power and especially their financial power, because you cannot separate your pussy from your root chakra finances. They are connected, the first and the second chakra, your root chakra, ancestral, financial, and your orgasmic sacral energies. So I teach women how to birth their 6 and 7 figure blissnesses. I call them blissnesses. They're businesses from their bliss. I teach women how to set up their marketing systems, to call in their soulmate clients from around the world. And I have a super easy, super fun, about a 90-minute training. It's a masterclass that will teach you exactly how to enroll high-end clients. You can sell $3,000, $30,000, $300,000 client packages if that's something you dream of. And it's so amazing when you step into your 6-figure power. It's different than when you're making money for the man. When you have your own blissness, it's in alignment with your soul. All of your chakras start to work together. Your soul purpose, higher chakras, and your root chakra grounding. So I'm going to put the link in the description box. So sign up for 6 steps to enrolling high-end clients with feminine flow. It is a blast. I have a lot of juicy things to teach you, some gorgeous slides my team has helped put together, and I will be helping you get through some of the biggest blocks and barriers that lead to twin flame separation and just disempowerment in women in particular. So I hope to see you there. So the best thing is even if you scare your man away or your woman away and you just make a gigantic fool to yourself, to the world, there is healing. It starts within. It starts with knowing that you are the most empowered sovereign being already. It just takes aligning that. And so take action, commit, fall in love with yourself, and you will mirror and magnetize your ultimate beloved. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.
Namaste.